Good evening. Well, I thought it was an absolutely knockout front page of The Sun that went online last night and was on display all over the country today. Union joke. And there is. Well, you can just about make out that it's the Union flag, better known perhaps as the Union Jack, but they've decided to add pink and all sorts of colours to it, and that is on sale for fans going to the Olympics in France this year to buy and to wear, which led to a great big panic. What on earth would be on the shirts, shorts and kit of the athletes? Well, a statement did come out mid-morning from the British Olympic Association, which said all Team GB athletes will wear the Union Jack as normal in Paris. However, Team GB kit itself is expected to include different shades of blue or red as in previous years. Well, I'm sorry, I don't really buy that. We'll have to see how the kit turns out. But of course, this follows hard on the heels of a story we did just 10 days ago, which was that for the European Football Championships coming up in Germany in June, that the Cross of St George, which will appear on the back of players' shirts, is unrecognisable in terms of colours to the Cross of St George. So should, folks, our flag ever be changed? Well, Peter Shilton said, is nothing sacred anymore? I have to say, I think this is really all quite deliberate, an attempt that goes right through much of civil society, right through much of our education system. They want us to basically be ashamed of who we are as people, not proud. I am dead against it. Give me your thoughts, please, on this. Farage at gbnews.com. Now, we sent Adam Cherry out to Wembley today to ask some members of the public how they felt about this.
Latest episode of Companies Fixing Things That Weren't Broken. We're going to be asking the people of London what they think of the changing colours of the Team GB Olympic logo. Take a look at this.
The blue, the red and the white, it's perfect. I feel like, it shouldn't be that controversial, but, it's iconic. I feel like the colours are iconic. Everyone's known London for being, red, white and blue.
I feel like it doesn't really represent England like that. The colours of the colours are kind of random.
I think it's very colourful. It's very pinkish and quite unicornish kind of thing, yeah.
A bit too unicornish for Team GB.
A little bit.
Do you think it was right to change the colour scheme from the original to whatever that is?
I think it's just a bit more different, really, and make all the other countries kind of look at us and be like, wow.
It doesn't really matter as long as Team GB do well at the Olympics.
Disgusting. Well, we're British, and our colours are not pink and purple and...
some patterns on there, it's all going crazy.
That's not our flag. That don't represent me.
Well, joining me in the studio to discuss this is Henry Smith MP, Conservative Member of Parliament for Crawley and Chair of the Flags and Heraldry All-Party Parliamentary Group, and Graham Bartram, Chief Vexillologist, we're going to go into that in a bit more detail in a moment, from the Flag Institute, and Lisa Mason, British Olympian gymnast. Henry, this follows so quickly on from the Football Association, almost across St George disappearing from the England football kit. And to be fair, we have had a clarifying statement, but still online you can buy, supporting kit with that flag on. Could this be a cynical attempt by marketing companies to get some publicity, or is it all a deliberate attempt to erode identity?
Well, I think it's probably both. We see this constant erosion of British identity, how we're supposed to be made to feel ashamed of our heritage. Quite the opposite, I would argue, should be the case. People died for freedom under the Union flag, the Union Jack, and I think it should be respected. I'm fed up with this sort of constant sort of erosion of respect for our national symbols, and I suspect that this is something deliberate. Team GB have probably, in a panic, just pulled it back to say that the Union Jack will be properly displayed on kit.
I think the hue and cry did, without a doubt, make them respond fairly quickly, which the FA, incidentally, have not done. And I'd rather hope that Gareth Southgate, the England manager, would have spoken out, but given that he had us taking the knee after everybody else, maybe that was a bit of a vain hope. But Graham, explain to me, vexillologist.
It just means somebody who works with flags.
Simple as that.
Latin for flag is vexillum.
Perfect.
So it's half Latin, half Greek.
Only Jacob Rees-Mogg here would have known that, his Latin being far better than mine. How is this allowed to happen? These are important national symbols. I think they're important to supporters. I suspect, and I'm going to come to Lisa in a moment, they're important to competitors as well. How is this allowed to happen? Because I'm told that in other countries, it would actually be illegal.
Yeah, well, in this country, we don't really have any modern laws, at least in England, about flags, etc. There isn't even a law that says that the national flag is the Union flag.
Really?
There are clauses of treaties that if you read them carefully, you could interpret them to mean that, but the flag of the United Kingdom is the Union flag. Nope, don't have that. We don't have what you might call a national symbols officer. A national symbols officer who could expect to be consulted about things like changing the flag for use at the Olympics, and basically sort of say no.
And this could be a Home Office minister could have this added to their brief.
It could, yes.
You wouldn't need to spend any money on it, would you?
It's not as if you're going to require a department of 1,000 people.
No.
You're talking about just adding it as a responsibility to one minister that you are the national symbols officer, or one of your underlings is a national symbols officer, and you are the government's person for dealing with this.
And why do you think this is happening?
One of the problems is, in some ways, we're such an old country. We have a sort of confidence in government that we don't need to worry about these things because we are Britain. We are, and it's only when stuff like this happens that you go, actually, maybe we do need to worry about it.
Well, clearly, after the last couple of weeks,
yes.
we do.
And, before that, there was that period when people like the National Front basically grabbed the national flag and made it theirs and said, pretty well, nobody else can use it.
But we've reclaimed that, haven't we?
And
We're well past all of that.
We have.
We're well past all of that.
And things like the Euro 96, when the England flag started being used again. We've got past that, but it's a constant battle, and you need somebody to fight it.
Interesting.
And it's no good.
Now, Lisa,
expecting it.
As a competitor, this is quite important, isn't it? The symbolism on your kit.
Absolutely. What I was saying earlier on is, from my knowledge of competing for Great Britain, especially with the Olympic kit, there's alterations of the flag constantly. I know it's happened throughout the football shirts. However, there is always a little flag, which is your flag, and it's either on the arm, or it's down here somewhere, but that's always there. Now, I'm waking up and seeing the news about the GB kit. For me, I thought that was just, the design of the T-shirt. I didn't realise it was something they were coming out to try and change. And you imagine if this was America. What would happen in America if they decided to put pink in their flag instead of red? There'd be an uproar. So why are we the only country that's doing it? It's insane.
And as a competitor, how does it feel to put that kit on?
For me, the big part, and I think a lot of Olympians can say this, one of the best part about being an Olympian is when you go for kit day and you're there and you've got 2 huge suitcases full of, Team GB only competitors' kit that you get to wear because it's got the GB flag on it. It makes you feel...
Does it mean something?
It absolutely. When you win medals, the pride you feel for seeing your flag go up. Imagine standing there and you're seeing pink, lilac, or something else.
Or in the case of the football team, I've no idea what different colours, orange, I think it is, or something. Yeah. And the fans must feel the same way too, surely.
Yeah, I think, with this wokeness and people trying to, make things a little bit more modern, I guess is the word to say.
For the sake of what?
I don't know, moving forward, not being stuck in the old ages. I don't know. But I think there will be people that embrace, and I think unless you are like a proper, how can I say it? Somebody that is very patriotic or someone that's represented their country, I think you don't feel it as much, I think. And I think it's easy for people where it doesn't really, I don't want to say affect you because I don't mean it in that manner, but, when something's important to you, you fight for it more. Same with anything that happens in the world. If it affects you fight for it, don't you?
I think Graham's point is we've taken it for granted.
Yeah.
I think that's really the point you were making earlier. Henry, you've got this all-party parliamentary group, on these things. And I think Graham's point about having somebody who was an officer for this, and it could, I think, be a junior Home Office minister, has it added to the brief. Obviously, Parliament's in recess, but I mean, I really do think that you guys ought to be standing up and doing something about this.
Well, no, I agree, and I think Graham's idea, it's something we've discussed in the past, is very important. As I say, it wouldn't cost any more. It would just fix a point of responsibility in government to make sure that our national symbols are protected. So many of our symbols, whether it be people climbing on statues or tugging at the Union Jack on the cenotaph during protests disgracefully, so many of our symbols are now under actual deliberate attack by those who are interested in pursuing the culture wars, trying to cancel what it is to be British and all of the great things that we have done. And one of the things I reflect on is that actually the Union Jack is a very trendy, popular symbol around the world. You see the Union Jack everywhere. It's probably one of the most recognisable flags
I've seen it on T-shirts in New York, and I mean, there's nothing stuffy or bad about it. It actually represents, I think, quite good values. I wonder, though, Lisa, I do wonder about this point that a lot of younger people have had the country talked down to, you know, by school teachers, by very left-wing university professors. It's almost as if we're the only country that ever was involved with slavery. We've invented climate change. There is a lot of negativity, isn't there, pushed into young people?
I think so. I think for a lot of it, where we are so aware of everything that's going in and out of the news nowadays, it's easy to create a narrative, and, you know, interpretation is everything. And I think that a lot of the younger generation are led massively on their feelings, and unfortunately, like I said, it's down to interpretation of what they take away from it. And there are a lot of bad things that has happened in our history as well as the rest of the world.
Very good things too.
Yeah, exactly. There's very good things as well. But I think especially over the whole COVID time, where everyone was really homed in on what we'd done as a country and, you know, protests and everything that happened, I think it's made people go, yeah, it's not great. And like you said earlier on, there's very much like a council culture for, you know, being British, if you will.
Well, we're going to try and fight for that. A national symbols officer. That is clearly what we need. We cannot take our national symbols for granted. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
For contributing to this debate. And yeah, it does really matter.